Is Golden State about to make the most desperate move of their dynasty era? After watching Jimmy Butler's ACL explode and their championship window slam shut in real time, the Warriors find themselves staring into the abyss, and apparently their lifeline might be a 35-year-old center from Chicago who's never won a playoff series. Welcome back, everyone, to the most chaotic chapter of the Warriors' twilight years, where desperation meets delusion in a potential trade that has the basketball world scratching their heads. Let's set the scene. Golden State entered this season with dreams of one more championship run. They had Steph Curry still defying Father Time, Draymond Green still screaming at referees, and the blockbuster addition of Jimmy Butler to form what looked like a legitimate Big Three. Fast forward to today, and those dreams are shattered on the hardwood of Chase Center. Butler's season-ending ACL tear didn't just end his year, it potentially ended Golden State's entire championship aspirations for the foreseeable future. Now sitting at 25-21 and clinging to 8th place in the brutal Western Conference, the Warriors are facing an identity crisis. Are they contenders, pretenders, or just another aging team desperately trying to squeeze one more title out of their aging core before the inevitable rebuild begins? The answer might lie in what they do with their most controversial asset. Jonathan Kuminga, the 22-year-old forward who went from untouchable prospect to trade bait faster than you can say Steve Kerr's doghouse. Here's where it gets fascinating, and frankly, a bit sad. Kaminga, once viewed as the future of this franchise, has reportedly demanded a trade after falling completely out of Kerr's rotation. Think about that for a second. A young, athletic forward with all-star potential is so frustrated with his role that he wants out of a championship organization. And the Warriors? They're apparently ready to grant his wish, but here's the kicker. Nobody seems to want him at the price Golden State is asking. Enter the Chicago Bulls and their veteran center Nikola Vucevic, a player who represents everything the Warriors desperately need and simultaneously everything that could go catastrophically wrong. This proposed trade, Kaminga to Chicago for Vucevic and draft picks, is the basketball equivalent of trading your lottery ticket for a scratch-off. Sure, you might win something, but you're definitely giving up the chance at the jackpot. Let's analyze what Vucevic brings to the table because, on paper, it actually makes some sense. The 35-year-old Montenegrin is putting up a solid 16.8 points, 9.1 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game while shooting an efficient 50.4% from the field and 37.3% from beyond the arc. For a Warriors team that has struggled mightily at the center position since the departure of Andrew Bogut in his prime and the retirement of Kevin Looney's knees, Vucevic represents a legitimate upgrade. He can stretch the floor, which fits perfectly into Golden State's motion offense. He can rebound, which they desperately need, and he can score in the post when the three-point barrage isn't falling. But here's where the alarm bells start ringing louder than the Chase Center's championship banners flapping in the wind. Vucevic has never won a playoff series in his 13-year NBA career. Read that again. 13 years, 0 series victories. Now, is that entirely his fault? Of course not. He spent most of his career on mediocre Orlando and Chicago teams. But when you're the Golden State Warriors trading away a 22-year-old with championship upside for a 35-year-old who's never tasted playoff success, you better be absolutely certain about what you're doing. The financial implications are equally intriguing. Vucevic is on an expiring contract, which gives the Warriors flexibility. If he meshes well with Curry and helps them make a playoff push, they could re-sign him to a team-friendly deal. If he doesn't, they let him walk and clear cap space for the summer. It's a low-risk, potentially medium-reward scenario, except for the part where they're giving up Kaminga, who despite his struggles, still has the physical tools that NBA executives salivate over. Let's talk about what Chicago gets here, because this trade isn't happening in a vacuum. The Bulls are in full teardown mode, sitting at a disappointing 19-28, and finally accepting that their Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic core was never going to compete for anything meaningful. For them, acquiring Kaminga represents a chance to add a young building block to pair with their other assets. Kaminga would get the playing time and opportunity he's been craving, and the Bulls would get a potential cornerstone piece for their rebuild. But here's the million-dollar question that should be keeping Warriors fans up at night. Is this really the best they can do for Jonathan Kuminga? According to reports, his trade value has plummeted faster than crypto in a bear market. Teams around the league are hesitant to meet Golden State's asking price, partly because Kaminga's inconsistency has been well documented, and partly because everyone knows the Warriors are desperate. When you're desperate, you get desperate returns. The broader context here is absolutely critical. This isn't just about one trade, it's about the Warriors' entire philosophy moving forward. Are they going all in on Curry's final years, consequences be damned? Or are they trying to balance competing now with building for a post-Curry future? This Vucevic trade screams win now, but does adding a 35-year-old center who's never won a playoff series actually move the needle in a Western Conference featuring the Nuggets, Thunder, and Grizzlies? History tells us that championship teams are built on star power and elite defense. Vucevic provides neither. He's a good player, a professional, a reliable veteran, but he's not the difference between a first-round exit and a championship parade. The Warriors need to ask themselves, without Butler, are we really one Nikola Vucevic away from contending? Or are we just delaying the inevitable rebuild while sacrificing our future in the process? The clock is ticking. The trade deadline is only weeks away, and every day that passes is another day of Curry's prime evaporating. The Warriors find themselves at a crossroads, and this potential Kaminga for Vucevic swat might just define their next half-decade. Will they pull the trigger on a trade that could provide short-term stability but long-term regret? Or will they hold firm, demand more for their young asset, and risk watching the season slip away entirely? What do you think, everyone? Is trading Kaminga for Vucevic the smart move or the panic move? Should the Warriors go all in on Curry's twilight or start planning for life after the chef? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear if you think this trade is genius or absolute madness. And if you're as fired up about this as I am, smash that like button and let's keep this conversation going. The trade deadline is approaching fast, and trust me, this Warriors saga is far from over.